Hey there, welcome back to conjuredcraft. This week, I'm trying out a requested build, some Underdark scatter terrain. Specifically, I'm going to show you some fungi that you can make as simple or as complicated as you like for your own gaming table. To get started, I need some bases, and using this bite-sized barbarian for scale, I trace out 3 rough shapes on some black poster board and cut them out. Using one of my crappier blades, I bevel the edges of the poster board until I have 3 shapes that I like. To start building up texture, I take out some chunks of old plaster, which I can break down into various shapes for rough, calcified stone. I love saving these pieces of plaster because the surface on them reads so well to me at this scale. A little bit of hot glue and they are securely tacked down. From there, I can cover up the base with PVA and sprinkle sand over the top. Now, while those are drying, let's get on to our main building material. We're going back for some scraps of warbler. This stuff worked so well for the tree on my floating island diorama that I knew it would be perfect for this type of build. Using something that doesn't absorb heat, like this cardboard tube from a roll of duct tape, I can control the smaller warbler pieces while blasting it with a heat gun. Once these thin strips are heated, I can roll them out into long cylinders or snakes or whatever you call them, and then cut them down into different lengths. From there, you just have to heat them up and attach them to one another using the warbler's natural sticky property. And as always, check your scale while you're working. To make the second type of fungus, we're going to need some tinfoil compressed into the shape that you want. I want this enclosure to look large enough that a mini could fit inside of it. My idea for this particular plant is that it bursts out of a bulb to capture any adventurer who wanders too close to it. Using thicker cylinders of warbler, I build up the outline of the shape, and then we can use thinner pieces to close up one side, before we pop out the foil and finish off the back. A little bit of patience, and you can make these into varying sizes and shapes, giving you a unique bit of flora that you can use as a trap for your players. One last piece of warbler to connect them at the base, and we can move on to the big boy. For this mushroom, I'm using more tin foil to fill out the stalk and the cap. With a larger piece of our warbler, I can heat, wrap, and then cut it to shape around the base, before adding some bulbous pods around the middle, which I picture as a source of food or water for hungry explorers. From there, I move on to covering, cutting, and shaping the cap for this mighty mushroom. Then we can start texturing another large piece, which will connect the two halves. I wanted this one to stand out as being more than just a giant mushroom, and using a piece of warbler as a makeshift tool, I start pushing in this detail for where spores might be released. Then I could begin the precarious process of attaching all the separate components together and blending them into one another with a scrap piece of warbler. Now for the record, I'm using this scrap piece as a tool partly to show how easy this project is, but also because, well, I was in just such a groove, I didn't want to ruin it by getting up and grabbing my tools out. The last step for this toadstool was to add on some sturdy trunk details. And as you can see, all our plants are complete. Everything gets hit with a gray rattle can primer and then painted up black for the base coat. For the smallest of our 3 pieces of terrain, I've been calling it bristlewort, a smaller red fungi that is a source of light and warmth. For the middle one, I like the sound of shockstock. This surprise attack plant should have a fun name to go along with its cooler paint scheme, naturally fading to white at the tip of each of the cages. For the largest one, I decided to go quite alien with the colors, a faded purple for the cap, some more reserved earth tones for the stalk and roots, and a bright yellow for the acai, however you say it, and the bulbs. I haven't quite settled on a name for this one yet, so if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. I kept the paint for the bases as simple as possible. I want them to stand out from my other ground terrain, but without taking away from the mushrooms on top. So they actually have a pretty washed out or faded color scheme. For final assembly, we just use a little bit of hot glue, touch up the paint where it's needed, and we're done. It was really fun to challenge myself to make something that other people wanted to see, and I'd love to keep making more of your suggestions. As always, please hit the like button and share this video. It's the only way for me to grow this channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider hitting that button as well. I hope you tackle your own Underdark fungus, and if you do, send me some photos of them on Instagram. I'm at conjuredcraft. Until next time, be safe, keep crafting, and cheers.